Hallo zusammen! Hello and welcome to another new live stream. Hope you're doing well. It's been a hot minute. Well, not quite, because I've also streamed in early May from the Netherlands, but there was a short stream, a spontaneous one, but this was a planned one. And the last one that I did like this was in early April. Yeah, for the 10th channel anniversary, everyone. With that being said, I guess I'm gonna switch over to this. Hi! Hello! Do 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 do. If everything's fine. Levels look alright. Everything else as well, I think. Well, I could close this. This has to remain open. Okie dokie. What's there? Ah, yeah, I see. Matt H! Hi, Matt! Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Awesome. How are you doing? Do, 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 do. I just ate before the stream started, and I feel a little bit stuffed, to be honest, which isn't the worst feeling you can have, I guess, but yeah, it is what it is. I just wanted to let you know. Mirodaya, welcome. Hallo. Thanks for tuning in again. Much appreciated. Awesome. And you blend in very well with the background. As if you had planned that. Doing well today. That's awesome, Matt. That is what I wanted to hear. Me too. Me too. Today was the last day of work for this week. Because tomorrow, you know, is Father's Day, der Vatertag in Germany, which, by the way, I also made a video about. And yeah, it's Christi Himmelfahrt, the Ascension of Christ. That is the actual holiday, but it's also Father's Day. That's always the same in Germany. And that's a holiday. That's a nationwide holiday, as far as I know. I think it is. So, no work tomorrow. And a lot of people going out and about with der Bollerwagen, with like a hand wagon that they pull behind them with like beer and different things that they carry with them, like a boombox, for instance, and, you know, just having a great time. Not everyone does that. You know, I'm not doing it this year. But yeah, I've also done that in the past. And that's a common thing in Germany. And it's always fun, you know, with the right group of people. That's always fun to do. And yeah, Friday is what we call der Brückentag, the bridge day. Which means it's a day between a holiday and the weekend. And many German employees, they plan it so that they have another holiday on that day, basically. Which applies to me too. So, yeah, long weekend for me. And I'm really looking forward to that. So, are you celebrating Father's Day? Is that a thing in your region, your country? I don't know. Maybe it's more or less a German thing to do that. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's quite common here. Yes, sir. It is. Let me check something real quick. Oh, okay. I see. Interesting. And you know, we, as a family, we've already planned to have a barbecue on Friday, which is, I'm really looking forward to that. With my grandparents, my parents, my brother, you know, like the close family in a way, part of it. And that's gonna be yummy. Looking forward to that. And other than that, I also have something to work on. New videos. Which also takes some time, so I could definitely use that. Father's Day is a Sunday in June for the US. Interesting. Okay. That's interesting, because as far as I know, I don't want to say anything that's incorrect, but I think in Germany, Father's Day is always the same as Christi Himmelfahrt that day, which is usually the last Thursday in May. I could be wrong about that, but it's more or less, you know, it's always May, June-ish, around that time. And generally speaking, there are a lot of holidays in May and June in Germany. It's quite holiday heavy. And that's one of them. Also, we just had Mother's Day. What was it, last week? No. I think it was it May 11th? I think so. I think it was the week when I came back from the Netherlands with my company. Yeah, so it should have been May 11th, I think, was the Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. It's June 15th this year for us. Okay, I see. Interesting. I didn't know that it's like a different regulation in a way, like a different day altogether, different date even. I thought that was like, it was the same everywhere, but apparently not. Interesting. Didn't know that. May 11th for us too. Okay, so that fits. That sums up. Okay. Or that lines up in a way. But, interesting why Father's Day is different. Like, is Father's Day, is that a big thing in the US as well? Like, do people really actively celebrate it the way we do in Germany? Or many Germans do? Not all, like I said, but very common. Good to know. Good to know, good to know. And I just realized, I think I activated the chat in the video for the past stream. And I didn't have that in the previous streams, I don't think. But yeah, just gonna have it. Gonna leave it there for the time being. Not a federal holiday, just a get-together on a Sunday. Okay. Huh, I mean, that's also nice. Why not? Brian Double! Or Double? Hi, Brian. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you're here. Brian says, I was stationed in Hohenkirchen from 1983 to 1985. I spent a lot of time in Jever. Oh, up in the north. I see. Beautiful little town. Yes, I'm a veteran. And yes, we do celebrate Father's Day here in America. Awesome. I guess that must have been an interesting time. Especially, you know, in the 80s in Germany. Which was West Germany then. Because back in the day, Germany was still separated. You know, there were two Germanys. There was West Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, FDR, and East Germany, aka the German Democratic Republic, GDR, which, you know, as a term is quite misleading because it wasn't a democratic republic, far from it. But yeah. So sometimes I wonder, you know, I was born in 91, so I can't really relate to those days. Like I was born when the Berlin Wall had already fallen, you know, when it already had vanished. So I didn't experience the GDR myself. Luckily, in a way, you know, of course. In some way, but I still wonder what life was like in the 80s in general, like especially in Germany, in both Germanys actually. I mean, we know quite a few things from, you know, history classes in school and everything, but that's one thing. But then there's also the element of self-experience or experiencing something for yourself, right? And then what's also special for you guys, or for, you know, Brian, who was stationed in Germany in those days, like that in general, like that setup, the two Germanys, but then also coming from the outside inside, you know, into Germany and experiencing that from the US point of view. I guess that must have been really interesting. But yeah, I've heard of Hohenkirchen and I've also heard of Jever. Jever, I mean, it's not V, I think it's Jever. Now that I think about it. Like a friend of mine is from northern Germany as well, and he keeps telling me that it's Jever. It's not Jever, it's Jever. Like with an F sound rather. So Jever. Because I kept saying it wrong, and I guess many people do in Germany that are not from there. That town is primarily known for its beer. because Jefa is also a beer brand. Jefa. Which I think I also really like. I haven't really drunk it a whole lot in my life yet, I don't think. Like, maybe like a handful of times, but yeah. I have vivid memories of it. Let's put it this way. My high school textbooks for German still referred to the Berlin Wall in 1999 to 2001. Wow, interesting. I mean, you know, we have to keep in mind that at that point in time, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, that had already happened like 10 years ago. So that was relatively fresh in terms of history. So interesting. Bob Fognozzle! Hi, Bob! Thanks for tuning in. M here? What do you mean? M here. Is it like M from James Bond? I don't think so, right? M and Q. But maybe you are. I don't know. But I think, you know, that's like maybe these days it's different with like digital lesson, like classes material that you have or that teachers use. But back in the day, before digitization of schools and everything, which in Germany, you know, there is a certain degree of digitization in most schools, I guess. But it's still like sometimes it's still quite analog, as far as I know. And back in the olden days, when there was no digitization for schools and just like analog books that you had to read and hold them in your hands, I think the problem often was that, especially for history classes, that sometimes, you know, or often history is faster than the interval of, you know, printing history books, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean. So I guess that is also part of it. Why maybe you have read about the Berlin Wall, and as if it had still, you know, existed in the late 90s, 2000s. Bérangère, hi! Hallo! How are you doing? Ah, okay, yeah, I see. Bob, I see. My brain didn't help there. It misled me. Just short for Ich bin hier. I am here. Ich bin hier. Which is pretty simple, by the way, for you guys to remember, because it's a one-on-one, one-by-one translation. I bin, am, here. Here. Yeah. Sometimes German can also be easier. Not easy, but easier. But you gotta be lucky, of course. Did I just listen to that song? I mean, there's not a lot of songs in my playlist. Because, you know, frankly, I have to still find a decent source for copyright-free music or royalty-free music that I can play during streams, and that isn't like boom, 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 you know, like I'm a fan of lo-fi, chill out, you know, that kind of stuff. And I had like 1 or 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe longer, I had already found a playlist like with that type of music, which apparently was labeled copyright-free. And then it turned out, well, not every song in that playlist was copyright-free. And then I thought, you know, not cool. So I still need to figure out how to, you know, or where to find a fitting, like, I guess, lo-fi instrumental source for music. Royalty-free. If you have, you know, if you know anything in that realm, in that regard, feel free to let me know. yeah. Anyway, that is why I keep playing those like 8, 9 songs at the moment. Which I like though. Great songs. Bérangerie says, when I went to Berlin, it was only a couple of years after the wall fell. Tell me you're old without telling me you're old. Well, age is just a number. But yeah, you're right. Here in New Jersey, it depends on which district you are in. Most districts use Chromebooks and print out workbooks. Ah. Interesting. I mean, you know, I don't know if you know, guys, but Germany and digitization of the entire country in all realms, like medicine and schools, daily life and everything, it's not that it's non-existent, but it's far behind many other well-developed countries still. And I hope that with the new, you know, as you guys know, this channel is free of politics and it will remain. Don't you worry. But one thing worth noting, generally speaking, the new government, which took office or got into office on May 6th, just recently, they started a new department which is just focusing on digitization. And we'll see if that, you know, does any good, and if that helps increasing the speed of Germany getting like digitized and arriving in the 21st century in so many ways. But yeah, I'm very curious about that. Yeah. Because frankly, we need to like. And I know that it's, you know, it's easier said than done in many ways, I know. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So it still needs to be done. So, And you're welcome, Bérangerie. Wow. Well, that was off for you guys, I guess. For me, it wasn't, but for you, maybe because of the delay a little bit. But I still wanted to, you know, groove a little bit. By the way, huge shout out to awesome fellow creators, which I can also, you know, show you guys, I guess. Can I show you guys? I can tell you guys. Natural Fluent German, Linguator Fluency or Linguator Fluency, Mein Wortschatz, you know, among others. Deutsch mit Maria and auf Deutsch gesagt. All very, very cool fellow creators who I just had the honor of talking to yesterday. Like, from those people and, you know, fellow creators, I knew Maria from her YouTube channel Deutsch mit Maria. I think now it's called Deutsch mit Maria Dobrowolska, I think. But it's Deutsch mit Maria. Maybe you guys know her as well. She's been around since 2016, so she basically started a little later than I did. And I knew her like from hearsay, and I knew her from, you know, being a creator, but I didn't know her in person. And yesterday, that changed. And, you know, I can only say what we did yesterday was something that maybe some of you may have seen my story on Instagram where I posted about this. We, like fellow German language based creators, or German language learning teaching based creators that do similar stuff that I do, you know, we teamed up for a little meeting, just like a hangout, basically, digitally, and we want to do this once a month, and I'm glad that I was able to make it, because, you know, I had a different task before that I had to do. I was busy before that, but I actually made it, and I'm very happy that I did, because it was a lot of fun getting to know the people, you know. I mean, I knew Robin Meinert from Auf Deutsch gesagt, the podcast you may know. I've also recorded like 2-3-ish podcast episodes with him already. Great guy. And he's the one who really made this possible. So huge shoutouts to Robin Meinert from Auf Deutsch gesagt. And to all the other, you know, participants. Really cool guys and girls. And yeah, we just, you know, exchanged experiences from creating videos and teaching, you know, people. Most of them, by the way, they do that as a main job, which I don't. So that was a difference. And that's also fine, though. I mean, you know, different perspectives and sharing your perspective, your individual perspective, it's always interesting and can be beneficial for everyone. So that was the purpose of it, you know, getting to know each other and really, learning more about yourself through the perception of others, and also others, how they do it, you know, and maybe some takeaways from that for everyone. And that was awesome, man. And I'm really looking forward to the next meeting, which we're gonna have next month. So, the digital school materials can be just as expensive as regular textbooks. Yeah, I guess so. Like, you would think, you know, like PDF files or something that may be cheaper, but no. I mean, because that's the thing. The medium changed, but the effort that went into making those that content, basically, in terms of, you know, history books or school books in general, that remains the same, largely. I mean, nowadays with AI, maybe it's even different, but still, you have to compile it, you have to, you know, create a final product with that, and that, yeah, that just costs. So, Bob asks, did you know Katja from Deutsch für euch? I know Katja. I think. I mean, I don't know. I haven't met her in person yet. I've met her once, I think, digitally, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we have exchanged, I think, posts, like messages, a few years ago already, through Twitter, I think, like just regular stuff. And of course I know her channel, you know, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I was a guest in a Get Germanized live stream where she also joined. I think that might have been, if I recall correctly, I think that must have been like, I guess 5, 6, 7 years ago even. So long time ago. But I think that happened. Not exactly, like, I'm not 100% certain, but I think that took place like that, yeah. So, and yeah, I mean, also likable, very cool person, from what I know. I don't think she's active at the moment, right? She's not actively doing YouTubey stuff. But maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Mirotaya, have you read my comment that I posted on January stream yet? What are your thoughts on that? I want to hear all about it. Let me check it out real quick. I read that you wrote a comment. Yes, I did. So let me check again. Maybe I can find it quickly. There is the January stream. So, okay, so Mirotaya wrote 4 months ago. No, they wrote 1 month ago for the January stream. You were just wondering what sheet waving is. It's a tradition that I do with my dad. Here's how it's gonna work. First, both of us grab a corner of the sheet tightly with both hands. Once we're ready, we raise and lower the sheet up and down a certain number of times, for example, 30 times. Each time the sheet lowers, it creates a small breeze, which feels like a little wind blowing. During the raising and lowering, my dad counts each number out loud. Once we've done waving the set number of times, we fold the sheet tightly into a neat bundle for the next time. It's a simple but fun way to spend some time together. If you want, you can share your thoughts on this tradition. By the way, this tradition was originally inspired by the parachute games that I used to play in elementary school during PE classes. First of all, please tell me, what is PE again? Physical exercise? Maybe? Okay, so interesting. First of all, by the way, The Scoop! Hi! Thanks for tuning in. Awesome that you're here. So I have never heard of that tradition, to be honest. Sheet waving. I thought you meant like when you know, on the at the train station, and you know, like a friend or a family, like a member or someone is departing by train, and you're standing at the platform and you're waving like a white sheet to say, oh, goodbye, oh, like that. I thought you were referring to that when I had a look at the comment a few weeks ago, but apparently not. But this is that's interesting. Like do you guys know of that tradition? Have you heard? Is that a common thing in your place? I think you're from Finland, right, Suomi? Yeah. So maybe it's like a Finnish thing. It's I mean, it sounds interesting. So the challenge is to not like burst the sheet. Or is it like to remain, you know, to keep a steady like rhythm? Is that the challenge? Interesting. Definitely interesting. Beranger says, I prefer actual books made of paper. Alright, I hope the next thing I say doesn't make me sound like a dinosaur. Don't worry. Don't worry. I mean, I'm not the biggest reader anyway. I read a book every few months, maybe. I know, but I still read a lot online, like not books, like but articles and everything, blog posts, news. But when I read, I still also have like the printed books. I haven't really read an ebook ever yet. I don't think. Now that I think about it, I have never read an ebook. Not that I'm against it, but yeah, I just, you know, I have quite a few books here that I read when I was younger and less gray. But yeah, I don't know. And I've never really thought about, like, could I picture myself, like, reading or switching over to, like, ebooks as the new standard way of reading books for me, personally. I don't know. Never thought about it. Interesting question, actually. But so far, I didn't have the intrinsic motivation. Anyway, but what I also like is like hearing audiobooks, like books read out loud by people that wrote them. For instance, The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl actually, voiced that he narrated the book. He read it, and that was recorded, and you can listen to that. So as an audiobook, and that is something that I also like. It's not that I listen to many audiobooks, but I like the idea, as someone who also likes podcasts, for instance, people saying something and that, is recorded and you can play it. So, I mean, it's essentially what I also do, being a podcaster as well, so. So it was physical education, okay. The feel of a book in your hand is very satisfying and nostalgic. That, I think, this haptic... Do you say that in English? Like haptisch? This haptic, like, physical feeling of having something in your hand and touching it. This tactile feeling, maybe that's a better term. I think, personally, as someone who grew up, that plays a huge role in all of this, I think, honestly speaking, is I still grew up with, like, analog things. Like, you can call the CD an analog medium, like a physical medium in that sense, but it's not analog in that, you know what I mean. But I still grew up with, like, physical books or CDs. And I also had, like, a vinyl player, like, for a few years. The old one of my dad, and now he has it again. But I still have a few, vinyl records from when my dad was young. Like, mostly, like, Jethro Tull and 70s stuff. And yeah, I know the feeling of, turning the vinyl from side A to side B, doing that actively, having to do that. I know the feeling of having, like, a CD booklet in your hand and that kind of stuff. So I can relate to that. But I also get, younger generations that may not have grown up with that. They may not have that sensation, like that attachment to that. And I totally get that as well. And honestly speaking, these days, like 99% of the time I listen to music, it's through, like, streaming services. Because it's convenient. And convenience, I'm not saying it because I like that thought, but from my experience at least, I can say convenience wins over quality. Convenience always wins. And there can be, like, quality, convenient experiences also. But in direct comparison, convenient, I think, wins over quality in any way, shape, or form, at the end of the day, for many people. So, that's just the way it is. Itachi! I'm living in the Sauerland region. So, feel free to tip the 10 euros. No. Yeah. And I'm also living in Germany. And what's also true is I'm living in North Rhine-Westphalia. Nordrhein-Westfalen, one of 16 German states. The most western one, and the biggest one in terms of population, with over 18 million citizens. The more you know. Rita Cerejo. Rita, thanks for tuning in. Hi. Oh, hi, my dear Dave. I'm on the road, so unfortunately I can't participate this time. Kisses and alles Gute. Oh, thank you very much, Rita. And no worries. I'm still very happy that you tuned in and wrote that into the chat, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And, safe travels, of course. I read that one. It must be quite good to hear it in his voice. The Storyteller, yeah. I haven't really heard it in full yet, but I still need to catch up on that, I guess. Physical media is way better. Books, music, games. I mean, you know, I have over. I think last I counted, I was at like 350 CDs, which I collected throughout the years, like especially in the early to late 2000s, early 2010s, and then I think around like 2013, 2012, 2013, I think it changed, and I started listening to music via streaming services primarily. And ever since then, you know, I'm still buying special editions of albums and artists that I really like a lot and that I want to support. I mean, technically I want to support all artists in a way, but you know what I mean. So I do buy like audiobooks and deluxe edition box sets, you know, something like that. I do that. And those can be quite pricey, but I like to do that in order to support the artists that way. And I also do that by, you know, supporting them via buying like tour shirts, like merchandise, and of course, you know, concert tickets. I like going to concerts a whole lot, and in fact, I just did again 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I think. Today, I think to the day 2 weeks ago, I went to see Ghost live for the third time in Oberhausen this time around. Yeah, great show. So yeah. Try showing today's kids the media and tech we grew up with. It's hilarious. That is true, Matt. I can't know, of course, but I could see that maybe not now, but in a few years, CDs and a few other things from, you know, or at some distant point in the future, even like printed books, they may become fashionable, trendy again. Because that's the way it is. Because it becomes retro, right? It becomes vintage, and it's something special, something different then. Even though it isn't now yet for many people, but in a few years' time, I guess that may be the case. Who knows? But yeah, I guess that's very interesting for people to see, and younger, you know, kids to see that old stuff, which for me, honestly speaking, as someone who grew up in the 90s and 2000s, you know, seeing like a floppy disk, I think it was, like a diskette, right? Like a floppy disk. I didn't really use that, apart from, you know, visiting my grandpa back in the day, and my dad still had some as well in like the 90s. So I also used them like once or twice maybe. So I you know, I know them, but I mean, the same is true for people that grew up with vinyl, and the older generation back in the day that may have used like a gramophone maybe, you know, instead of a vinyl player. So there's always that imbalance, if you will. And that's, you know, that's interesting. That's curious. Monkey Magic 2000. Hi, thanks for tuning in. Interesting username. Monkey Magic 2000. Yeah. I understand the convenience of digital, and it has its place. I just love the thought of it being mine and in my head. Yeah, in my hand. Yeah, true. Because also, you know, I think one thing that is lacking, or that digital media is lacking the most in comparison, is not, apart from that tactile feeling, you know, is like lyric sheets or not just that, but also, the booklet aspect of it, the art that you can see in booklets, for older albums, where someone like a graphics designer, they worked on that like for days and weeks. So, and that somehow that gets lost in most cases, I think, these days, which is sad. I mean, you can still have a great, visually astonishing cover artwork, as a primary thing, but that's about it for the most part, for digital media, digital music streaming services. And yes, sometimes I know you can download, the booklet as a PDF, for instance. That sometimes that is possible, but you still have to actively do so. You still have to actively download it, which I think is a barrier for some people. So, and that definitely gets lost. And with that, also a part of the general work of art that is an album. It's not just the music, it's also the visual presentation that gets lost. And that is sad. I'm a big fan, by the way, of someone like Travis Smith. His name is. He has designed a lot of awesome cover artworks for bands that I like. I first found out about him through Opeth, the band Opeth, and he has a very distinct style. Even though, every artwork that he does looks different, he still has a distinct style somehow that I can't really pinpoint. Travis Smith, his name is. Seam Pieces. And I just love his stuff. Very atmospheric, very, very cool. And he, as far as I know, usually has, when he creates artworks, he uses a mixture, where it comes full circle, by the way, of analog media and digital media, and combining that in a way. I think that is how he operates, if I'm not mistaken, for the most part. So, and that's interesting to me. I like it. Bob says, I was in Munster 3 years ago. Do you mean Munster or do you mean Münster? Because we have both. And I know that, the umlaut Ü, the U with the two dots over it, I don't, maybe tough to spell that on the keyboard for you guys, but we have both cities. That is why I'm asking. It's Munster and Münster. So we have both. Two distinct cities. And Münster is a quite big one, quite well-known one. And Munster is a city that is mostly known through its military base in Germany. Munster. Stayed in a neat hotel which was once a small castle. Ah. I worked for a school and I watched the second grade teacher show her class a rotary phone. It was so funny to see how they didn't know how to use it. Yeah. Yeah, I can picture that. I can picture that. I don't actually have a proper phone in my flat apart from my smartphone that I have with me. But apart from that, I don't have a stationary phone the way you used to have it in the olden days, right? And a few years ago, when that was still more or less the standard for many Germans, even my grandparents don't have that anymore. I thought, it would have been cool to have just a phone that is attached to the wall, I'm thinking of late 19th century, that kind of old. I don't know if there's a specific term for it, but maybe you guys know what I mean. A huger, a larger phone, maybe this size, which is attached to the wall, and you have a thing that you can, use in order to, listen to the other person. My vocabulary is failing me in that regard, as you may notice, but yeah. I always found them to be very stylish in a way. So, but yeah, I didn't get one. So, but it was, yeah, and the rotary phone, you know, with die Wählscheibe, the choose, was it in German? Anyway, the rotary phone, that would have been equally interesting to have that, like as an actual phone that you use. I mean, already, you know, talking about games and gaming, you know, handhelds. As a 90s kid, I had Game Boys. You know, I had the original Game Boy, which from today's standards, even though people nowadays use like a Switch 2, you know, something like that, and kids know the concept of a handheld and it's still there, them seeing like a Game Boy, the first edition, like the first original, the OG Game Boy, without like a colored display and everything, I guess that yeah, I mean, and the first phone that I had, I think, was like, was it? I think it was Nokia 3210, like I think that, and I remember playing Snake on it and everything, and then that also had like a really small display, and you know, not colored. So yeah, I'm old. Vincent from Miami. Hi, Vincent. Thanks for tuning in. Where are you from? I'm from the Sauerland region, which is the sour land translated literally, and it's a part of the German state North Rhine-Westphalia. North Rhine-Westphalia, like I said, is the biggest German state in terms of population, 18 million people living there. It's mostly known for the Ruhr area, das Ruhrgebiet, because it's the Germany's most industry-heavy region. A lot of people living there in like Dortmund and Düsseldorf and Essen, and you know, they're different. I mean, Düsseldorf isn't technically part of the Ruhrgebiet, the Ruhr area, I don't think anymore, but Dortmund is, Essen is, Duisburg, you know, those cities, yeah. And the Sauerland region where I'm from borders to that. Like it's not far, it's not extremely far away from Dortmund, you know. So, yeah. And it's you know, honestly speaking, it's lovely here. There's a lot of nature where I live. I'm pretty much everywhere I look, I'm surrounded by forests, like not close by, like it's not like I'm living exactly next to the forest, but I can see it in the distance, you know, at the horizon, everywhere I look, surrounded by forest. Lots of green spots, which is awesome. A lot of hiking trails, biking trails, you know. And honestly speaking, you know, Dutch people, for instance, and also many others, they come to my region, to the Sauerland, for, you know, being on vacation. And I live where people go to for a vacation. So I'm extremely happy here. I don't want to live anywhere else, to be honest. At the moment. Let's see. Have you actually used a rotary phone, Matt? I did. I was born in 1984. Ah, the hotel was Wilking Hege. Yeah, I don't know that, but impressive. I wouldn't have thought kids of the 80s had, but it's good to know. Ah, you know the rotary phone thing, yeah. Mit Ü, Münster. Okay, yeah. That's a way larger city. Also in North Rhine-Westphalia, by the way. Oh yes, it's so true for the artwork. Alexander Kaschte from Samsas Traum once said he planned on only releasing dematerialized music, and that's so sad. So bad because he had such excellent artwork. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's sad when something like that, like the old craft in a way, you know, that dies away. It's, yeah. And you know, I mean, just one example. In 1972, Jethro Tull British progressive folk rock band, cool band. They released an album called Thick as a Brick, and that was released on vinyl because CDs weren't a thing. They like the first CD I think like was Dire Straits' Money for Nothing. I think that was one of the first albums that was primarily released on CD in 1985. But before that, you know, CDs weren't a thing really, and they released that album in 1972 on vinyl, of course. But the booklet, the artwork was a fully fledged fake newspaper with different pages and different fake articles about different things, you know, that seemingly had happened, like sports results for games and whatnot. Totally ambitious, totally over the top, but, you know, they crafted with love and passion and everything. And yeah, that's my go-to example. And then, you know, more modern, someone like Steven Wilson, also British progressive rock musician, progressive metal musician, or general musician, Porcupine Tree and solo and everything, and also someone that I really, really admire for his work. He also puts out solo records, and, you know, he also has elaborate special editions that I like to buy. For instance, also one, Hand Cannot Erase, is an album from 2015 that he released. And he also, it's a concept album, and he released, you know, like a fake passport of a person that the album deals with, or also, you know, newspaper cutouts and everything. And just impressive. And yeah. And I really dig that. I personally dig that. And that is, you know, if that's the case, I also gladly buy special editions of albums, like deluxe editions. And especially if there is like a behind the scenes making of video type of thing on there as well, which I just love watching that stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of like demo versions of songs or that kind of stuff. Yeah, I can live without that, but making of behind the scenes, that's awesome. Old Radio says as well, I still have my OG Game Boy. Some of the pixels are dead, but it works. I still have the Game Boy Advance that I had back in the day. I still have that, like a violet one. I don't know if it still works, to be honest. I don't have any Game Boy games left, sadly. So I can't play anything on it, but yeah. Those were the days. Umer! Well, Umer. Thanks for tuning in, first of all. And can you say hi to my girlfriend, Jenna Taelia? Taelia? Hi, Jenna, by the way. Of course, I can say that. And greetings to you and to Umer. Glad that you're watching and that you tune in. Much appreciated, of course. As you guys know. I really, really appreciate this community. I can't stress that enough. I keep saying that in every stream. And I also made a whole video about you guys, the community, and my appreciation for it last month for my 10th channel anniversary. If you haven't watched that video, feel free to do so. It's pretty much a love letter to you guys from me as a creator. And yeah. So I'm just grateful for everything, to be honest. As you guys know. Believe it or not, I live in a very rural part of New Jersey, not too far from the Delaware Water Gap. I've heard the term before, like Delaware Water Gap. What's that again? Delaware Water Gap. I think I heard that somewhere. I don't know where and when and why, but yeah. I would love to visit Cologne, Germany one day. That Cologne Cathedral is just ethereal. It is, Umer. It is. I mean, of course, you know, as a German, I've been to Cologne a few times, maybe like a handful of times yet. And in 2017, me and, you know, fellow creator and friend Get Germanized, we had a meet and greet with some of you guys. And we met in front of the Cologne Cathedral, and we also went inside. And it's extremely beautiful. The sad thing with the Cologne Cathedral, though, is pretty much always there is at least one small fraction, like a small part of it from the outside that has to be, restored. And that people, you see, like, what's Gerüst in English? Let me look this up real quick. You see a Baugerüst around it, like construction work going on, and that's pretty almost, because it's such an old and important building, there's always construction going on there in a way. Apart from that, though, beautiful, especially from inside and also from the outside. I'm a big sucker for architecture anyway, so I love buildings like that. It's I love it. Let me see. Baugerüst, scaffolding. Scaffolding. Yeah, a term that I know, but a term that I don't really use at all, and therefore I didn't remember it. So yeah, but scaffolding, I've heard the term, of course, and I've read it a few times. So I'm pretty young. I was born in 2005. So much for the machines are ancient to me. I see. I mean, that's, even though I was born in 91, so 14 years apart. And even though I, from work and my personal life, I know quite a few younger people. And I would argue, I mean, they would have to tell me, but I would argue that I can totally relate to those people for the most part still, in terms of, how they, what they are about and how they live, how they also talk, youth speech, youth talk, because we also have that in German, Jugendsprache, the speech, the language of youth, of the youth, because they use different like slang words and everything, as compared to older people, and my generation included. But for the most part, we know what they mean. So, yeah. It's where the Delaware River cut through the Appalachian Mountains. I don't know where that is, but yeah, I've heard about the Appalachian Mountains. I just want to see its grandness and take 1,000 pictures. You should do that, Umer. Definitely worth a visit. And the good thing is that, around the dome, the Cologne Cathedral, der Kölner Dom, there are a lot of restaurants nearby, so it's easy to hang out there. And the train station of Cologne, like central Cologne, is pretty much right next to the cathedral. So when you walk out of the train station and you go to the left, I think it is, you're pretty much already there. You just have to walk like a few meters and get up a few stairs, sets of stairs, but that's it. You're already there. So that's awesome. Sir Keeks X Vision. Hi, Sir Keeks. Thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated you seeing you here. So, seeing you here. You're seeing here. I got a rotary phone and a weird heavy lever phone I got from thrift stores. What are thrift stores? Thrift stores. I've never heard that term before. Thrift stores. Let's see. See, and that's the cool thing. I can learn something from you guys as well. And I love that. Thrift stores. Second-hand. Interesting, by the way. Okay. Linguistically interesting for you guys. We also have... We have thrift stores in Germany. Quite a lot of them, actually. In German... We don't use a German term for those. We use an Anglicism, a word that apparently, I don't know if you use that as well, but we call them second-hand stores. you know, second hand. That is like a very common Anglicism in German, and every German knows what that means. Second-hand Läden, second-hand stores. Interesting. But I've never heard of thrift, that term. Interesting. Thrift stores. Second-hand Läden. Uh-huh. Good to know. Can Muslims go in? In my country, Muslims can't go into churches. You can definitely go into churches, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is no one, like, patrolling the doors anyway. Like, you can go into the church. Yeah. It may be locked, like, in the late evenings or nights. I don't know. That depends on the church. But apart from that, like, during the day, I don't think there's anything that prevents you from going into a church in Germany. No. Thrift stores that sell second-hand or used items. My grandma owned a second-hand store. Ah, I see. I see. Yeah, we used to have a second-hand store here, like where I live, a few streets away, and that, I think that lasted like for 30, 40 years, I think it was there, and then it had to close a few years ago because not enough people, you know, would buy stuff there. So it was a small one. It was not just like about clothes. It was like also technology, like CDs and vinyl and everything. He had everything in like 1,000 different products, old products in that store. But apparently, I guess, you know, not enough people bought something. So yeah, a bit sad that he had to close, but we call it Landa Bazaar. It's a whole market lands. The whole market lands. It's derived from London Bazaar because more of the stuff comes from Europe. Landa. Okay, Landa Bazaar. Yeah, I see. In French, we also have the expression de seconde. I'm sorry, I'm totally butchering this. Of course, because I don't speak French. The second I'm sorry. Oh boy. I'm trying my best. But I can't win. I just can't win. It's yeah, I'm gonna butcher it anyway. So it seems it's widespread in Europe. I'm from Pakistan, by the way. Ah, I see. Okay. Cheers to Pakistan, of course. Same story with the store from my grandmother. Ah. Okay. Da dee da dum. Do do dum. Roody dum. Do 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 dum. La 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 la. Do dum. Do do dum. Oops. Do do do. All right, guys. Maybe let's see. Maybe like 2-ish minutes, and then we're gonna call it a day, I think. So if you have a question, now's the time to ask it. Main gleich hand. Main equals hand, okay. But how do you pronounce it though? Main, des secondes, ma. Oh. I mean, I guess that is not far from right? But second, Maybe second, or is it second? Second? I don't know. I'm not, saying it like that to mock anyone. Don't get me wrong, please. Like, I'm just trying to... Telekom Moment. I'm just trying to, yeah. I'm just trying to try. But I fail miserably, I guess. Well. Last minute, guys. Last minute. I mean, maybe this is a good moment to let you guys know that I've been working on new videos coming soon. And let me just say that fans of music and bands that have released a new album this year, they may enjoy those videos. Uh-huh. And both bands have something in common. I mean, the bands that I made a video about. They... Where did I put it? They have a very specific appearance to them. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are my hints. But find out more about that soon. The first time you pronounce it right, but the thing is, I don't remember how I pronounced it the first time, because I pronounced it like 20 different times, like I think, in 20 different ways. So. Anyway, Mirodaya says, I need to go to bed. See you soon at the next stream in June. Yes, thank you very much. I'm gonna do the same. Not right away. I'm gonna still watch a few, I guess, more Indiana Jones episodes. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Great game. Anyway, thank you very much for having tuned in to today's live stream. And I'm really looking forward to, finishing off the videos in question. So, yeah. More videos soon. In that sense, have a great rest of the week. Great weekend, of course. And I hope to see you soon. Hope to see you in the next live stream. I don't know yet, but it may be a German stream. German-only stream again. Because I haven't done one in a while. So, we'll see. I don't know yet. Whoa. I don't know yet. I'm also going to be recording new podcast episodes, by the way. So, oh, by the way, last thing I want to say. Some of you may have seen that in my recent video. Let's see. Definitely German podcast. Huh. That is my podcast channel. German podcast. Definitely German podcast. And I also have just started a third channel, which is only for shorts. Short videos. And that's called German Language Hacks. So if you're interested in that, and if you want to do me a favor, feel free to subscribe to those channels, of course. Because that always helps. And you won't miss out on new episodes in terms of podcasts and in terms of German language hacks, as shorts and everything. So, just so you know. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did. Interesting and cool conversations, great questions, as always with you guys. So thank you. Much appreciated. And see you soon. In that sense, definitely see you next time. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.